here. Um, good morning. Happy almost lunchtime, everybody that's joining us. My name is Hillary Heislope. I am the director for the Clewiston Chamber of Commerce. And this is a candidate forum number 2 for the day for the Hendry County Judge. Both Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Hill are going to be on your primary ballot that early voting begins on Monday. So for voting information, you can visit the Supervisor of Elections website. If you don't find what you need there, please feel free to give them a call. They are very, very helpful. Ms. Hoots runs a great organization over there. She has some really great folks in her office, both in LaBelle and here in Clewiston. So welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for being here with us. We're going to dive straight in. I am going to mute you, Mr. Sullivan, because the first question goes to Mr. Hill, and each candidate will get to answer each and every question. For our Facebook viewers, if you have questions, drop them in the comments below. And towards the end, if we see something that I feel like we didn't really cover, we'll be happy to see if we can get some answers for you. If you think about it, gentlemen, and have a Facebook page, I'm not sure if you guys are on social media. I think that you said, Judge Hill, you were not. But if you can somehow monitor the comments that are going on this feed, you can always go back after the fact and speak directly to your constituents that way. So that's just a thought to put out there. So with that being said, please give us your full name, Judge Hill, and where you're currently employed, which we know, and how does your current employment add to your qualifications to serve as Hendry County's judge?
Thank you for having me. I'm Darrell Hill. I am currently your Hendry County judge, and I've been your judge since December of 2018 when I was appointed by the governor. I've had the pleasure of serving this county as your Hendry County judge for nearly 2 years now. And I had the unique pleasure of serving as your general magistrate for approximately 4 years prior to that, handling the family law matters in Hendry and in Glades County. Having practiced law for 28 years prior to taking the bench as the Hendry County judge, I had performed trials and motions and been before the courts of every court in the 20th Judicial Circuit and outside there. I have provided mailers to the Hendry County citizens here that have my qualifications to serve. But I think that a lot of it has been, the fact that I am your sitting Hendry County judge, the fact that I am serving as your judge, and everything that we've gone through in the past 2 years, most particularly with this pandemic and the crisis and how we've handled it as a county and as residents, have been quite remarkable, and is a testament to the strength and the courage and the resolve of our residents here, and how we're able to continue to deal with the situations within the courthouse. But my qualifications are, as stated, I would encourage everyone to go to my website to www.judgedarrellhill.com. That would give you some more detail with respect to my judicial and legal experience, education, and commitment to the community. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And gentlemen, just as one more housekeeping item, please don't feel like I'm being rude. I don't like to interrupt you, but I will. I'm sorry in advance. And to you, Mr. Sullivan, the same question.
Thank you. Thank you also for hosting us today.
Yes, you're welcome.
That. My name is Richard Sullivan. I am an attorney in private practice in Hendry County here in LaBelle. I'm a resident of Hendry County, living in Port LaBelle. I have been in practice for over 20 years, and I think my experience is most important in the area of criminal law. I've been doing criminal law for over 20 years, from everything from traffic tickets to capital murder cases. I have done over 100 jury trials. I know my way around a courtroom in the criminal matters, which is most of what a county court judge does. On the other hand, I've also done a lot of family law. I do adoptions. I do juvenile law. I do small claims. I have experience in all these areas. And I think my experience makes me a very good candidate for this position.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And we're going to stick with you, Mr. Sullivan. You get to go first this time. So I don't know why I muted you back, but there you go.
Yeah.
What is your plan for facilitating contested trials and hearings during the age of COVID?
Yeah, I like that question a lot. We have, because of the pandemic, we have not had jury trials for some months now. There is a fear of convening jury panels and packing people close together, potentially spreading the virus. There's risk to courthouse staff. There's risk to defendants and sheriff's department and corrections. Because of that, everyone is brainstorming, trying to figure out ways that we can do the trials. The Supreme Court of Florida, on down to the chief judges of each circuit, on down to the circuit and county court judges, are right now trying to put together plans and some system that we can use to do trials during the COVID emergency. It looks like we're going to have to try to do jury selection in some large building or some large area where we can separate people. At present, I don't think there's a workable plan. I know that our next potential jury trials will start in the middle of September. I'm hoping we can do that. What a county court judge can do is take the plan that's handed down from the chief judge and then toggle it for his particular community to make it work here, which is what I intend to do.
Okay, thank you, sir. And to you, Mr. Hill, the same question. What's your plan for facilitating contested trials and hearings during the age of COVID?
Well, with respect to hearings, we are actually conducting many hearings now. We are what to be considered in phase 2. We are allowed to do certain evidentiary hearings. We are doing a lot of remote hearings through Zoom, as well as telephonic hearings, and non-evidentiary hearings that would not require sworn testimony can be done telephonically very easily. So the court is working to facilitate and keep the cases moving as much as conceivably possible. And I think that we're doing a very good job of that. With respect to jury trials, of course, we are suspended with jury trials through the middle of September. And I anticipate that we're going to be hopefully beginning our jury trials during the month of October, at least for the county court. Judge Sloan, who's the circuit judge, and I will be coordinating our calendars and our jury trial calendars, of course, to try to facilitate the numbers of trials that we have scheduled, the priority of those trials, and then whether or not we'll be able to get enough for a panel for each courtroom. With respect to the county court type trials, we probably don't have as much of a need for as many people for a jury selection as we would in a circuit type trial case. So our number of potential jury panel may be a little bit less. We might be able to facilitate that here in the extra courtroom that we've had. There's been discussions of using some of the other rooms within the courthouse
15 seconds.
that would allow us to have social distancing in order to protect all parties and personnel that come into contact into the courtroom itself. So we're making diligent plans. We're very optimistic about it, and we believe we'll be able to get it done.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And we're going to stick with you. You'll go first this time, Judge Hill. What will you do to ensure that folks who appear before you who speak another language truly understand the nature of the proceedings?
Well, that's a great question, because there are so many individuals that come before this court that do not speak English is not their main language. And we have actually several systems in place for interpreting. We usually have an on-site person here present to allow us to have a live interpreter. We also have the use of the interpreting services, which is through Polycom, which is the television in the courtroom. They appear, and we even have equipment that's available for the individuals to wear as headphones, and there can be interpreting wherein it's not a disruption so much as it's almost as a communication between the interpreter and the person that does not speak English. We have what's called a language line that we use. When we dial up the language line, we have to identify what language that we're seeking to get a translator for, and they are very efficient. We've been able to manage it very well. As a judge, it's our duty to make sure that the person that comes before us understands the nature of the charges against them, particularly if it's a criminal case. Criminal cases are going to require an interpreter, and one will be provided for them. Civil cases will have interpreters. They'll provide them on their own. But the most important methods of that is the judge understanding that the person before them understands the nature of the charges against them if it is a criminal case, and that they are have an understanding of what's going on. That is done thoroughly through a process wherein we question them and we make sure that there is that assurance for the court before we go forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Sullivan, the same question to you.
You know, I read that question as kind of a two-part question, really.
Okay.
There is in-person interpretation, mostly English to Spanish, Spanish to English, that helps people in the courtroom who don't speak English as their first language. There's also the language line where a number of different languages can be dialed up essentially to help somebody in court. We recently had a dependency case where someone spoke Quechua, which is a dialect in Guatemala, and we were able to assist them. So there is translation, but the second part of the issue is really, do they understand the process and what's going on, even if it's translated? And to that end, I'd like to say that we do supply attorneys to people, and the attorney's responsibility is to explain really the American legal system, especially to people who didn't grow up with that kind of system. So they understand not just the words that are being asked of them, but also the concepts that are being asked. Do you understand what it means to waive your rights? It doesn't mean much unless you know what those rights are. So I think that what we do is not only provide a language basis, but we try to provide a knowledge basis through the appointment of attorneys.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to stick with you, Mr. Sullivan. Do you believe the composition of juries pre-COVID, obviously, adequately and fairly reflects our society at large? Why or why not? And if not, what can we do to change this? Okay, so here's the thing with jury selection. We call it jury selection, but we should call it jury deselection. And what I mean is this: the panels are drawn by the clerk of court from driver's licenses, people with driver's licenses, and a panel is brought to the courthouse. That is something that's outside the judge's purview. It's just a function of how the system is worked. Then the attorneys have a chance to question people to try to elicit any bias that they might have or any prejudice they might have. And they have a certain number of strikes to strike those people from the panel. The people that are left are hopefully then free of bias and free of prejudice and a fair jury for a client. As I've said, I've done over 100 jury trials. I don't believe I've ever felt with a jury that the jury was prejudiced or biased against my client after jury selection. And for that reason, I do think it is a fair way to select juries. Okay, thank you. And the same question to you, Judge Hill.
I also agree. I do believe that it is a fair method of selecting juries. You know, it used to be that juries were summoned by voter ID. And that was prior years. And then I believe it was in 1998 is when we started using the driver's licenses to summons the jurors, potential jurors. And the reason for that was to get a wider pool of individuals, to have a wider selection and a more broad-based, to be more of the community composite of those individuals that are in the community. And I think for the most part that we have been able to accomplish that. I do see that we have, when we do have juries come in and we do jury selection, we have a large number of individuals that come. In most cases, quite frankly, we have plenty of jurors that come and we're able to pick a jury, at least in my cases, in the trials that I've had over the past 2 years, rather efficiently, without the necessity of having to call on more jurors and without having a problem that jurors don't represent the community at large. So I would also agree with that conclusion that we do have a composition of juries that we've been able to select that adequately and fairly reflect the society of Hendry County.
Thank you. And we're going to stick with you, Judge Hill. Could the cost of judicial administration be reduced? Can you give us a specific example of how you have or would reduce costs in your court?
I think that with respect to reducing costs, that really is something that's within the purview of the court administration personnel. The judge is certainly mindful of what is going on in their courtroom. And for us as a judge, and for me, it's the time. If you have to be an efficient manager of your time, you have to be an efficient manager of the court proceedings. If you run overtime, if you run past 5, if you run into lunch hours and things like that, you're going to exceed costs that are going to be incurred by costs from personnel having to be paid overtime, et cetera. So for the court itself to administer and to maintain the court proceedings in an efficient manner, that I think is what we need to be mostly concerned about as a judge, not as much as the fiscal manner of how much things are going to cost. Our primary concern really needs to be the administration of justice and the individual's right to be heard. And I think in many times we have this feeling, and I think some have the feeling that they just want to have the right to be heard. They don't want to be rushed through this. And I think we need to be mindful of that. There are ways that we have been able to reduce costs as a result of the COVID. And that has been because we've increased the use of telephonic hearings. We've increased the use of Zoom hearings. So we've decreased the need for certain personnel within the courtroom. And so as a result of just what's happening and have to adapt, we have been able to reduce costs in that manner.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Sullivan, the same question to you.
Well, I agree that costs and efficiency in the courtroom are tied together. So the more efficient the system is, the less it's going to cost to run it. I never heard of Zoom before the COVID emergency. This is new to me, but it has forced changes on the court system where we have gone to a lot more video and telephonic hearings. And it has really, I believe, increased the efficiency of the system quite a bit. I am hopeful and intend to keep a good deal of the video or the Zoom type of systems for routine matters such as case management conferences, arraignments, non-evidentiary hearings, and things like that. I think for a courtroom itself, there's a couple of ways to add a little bit of efficiency. For example, greater reliance on sworn plea forms to speed up the time it takes to do a plea. And there's a mechanism for trying second-degree misdemeanors to the bench or a judge rather than a jury trial, which increases the efficiency.
Thank you, sir. The next question will stay with you, Mr. Sullivan. Let's see. What have been the most effective methods for improving court procedures and efficiency? And what other methods would you suggest?
Well, I think maybe I've just answered that in my last response.
I
In
think
that,
so.
I think reliance on technology is really helping quite a bit and really increasing the efficiency of the system. And that'd be the biggest savings we can get, I believe.
Okay, thank you. And the same question to you, Judge Hill.
I would agree. I think that the telephonic hearings and the remote hearings have really reduced the time it takes to conduct hearings that would normally have been in-person type hearings. We've already done this, particularly in small claims court and in traffic infraction court. We've done this in the docket soundings and the criminal cases. We would have cases where we would have 90 to 120 or more cases set for in-person dockets that we've been able now to do via Zoom or telephonic in a much greater efficient manner. And I do believe that although some of the rules have been relaxed with respect to what's required in an in-person hearing, I do feel that some of these methods, as they tend to continue to go on and go forward and seeing that they work, might just be the change of what's going to be to come. We may see more of these types of hearings. I think it is in many instances appropriate. We have a lot of folks that are driving from Clewiston to Hendry County Courthouse for a hearing that may take 5 minutes, and it could have been done very efficiently over the phone or via Zoom. So I think that's going to be benefiting from a lot of folks, not just from the court, but also from the litigants as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next question stays with you, Judge Hill. What do you perceive as the greatest obstacles to justice, if any?
I think that I could say that one of the greatest obstacles to justice would be your judge. I think your judge needs to be an independent judge. Your judge needs to understand what the roles of a judge is. He needs to understand the code of judicial conduct. The judge needs to understand that no matter who you are, no matter what your identity of the parties would be that come before you, no matter where you come from, no matter what your race is, your gender, what your station in life, that the judge needs to treat everyone equally that comes before him. As a judge, you're not on one side or the other. The side that has the better argument under the law wins. A judge needs to understand that a judge must follow the law. In order to follow the law, he is protecting the integrity of the judiciary. Following the law means understanding the rules of precedent, what has been decided before, how was it decided before. And we as a society, we rely on the law and we rely on the way things were decided before so that we can have a civil society. A judge needs to understand that. A judge needs to make sure that he's not making comments on how he would rule in a specific case. A judge needs to remain independent, again, to preserve the integrity of the judiciary. The judge represents the judiciary as a whole. What the judge needs to do is to have that abiding respect for the rule of law, to give everyone the right to be heard with a fair and prompt ruling.
15 seconds. Oh, that's all. Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. I think neutrality and fundamental fairness on the part of a judge are a given. I think county court is something like the people's court in that more than any place else, I think people really want to be heard. So for a judge, I don't think it's just a matter of hearing the case. I think it's also a matter of hearing the person. In my experience in court, especially with defendants, they don't always feel like they didn't commit a crime. They want to be understood of why they committed a crime. And that's important. And it's really important for a judge to hear that, because when a judge is fashioning a sentence for a person, a judge needs to make sure that that sentence is fair, equal, balanced, and intended to correct the behavior on the person's part. But it doesn't have to be branding someone as a criminal. It can be just correcting them and their behavior. And I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Our final question will stay with you, Mr. Sullivan. Do you believe that voluntary, professional, and community service is a necessary commitment for a person holding public office? What form of voluntary, professional, and community service have you been involved with in the past and involved in currently?
Okay, I do believe it's important. The bar requires or asks attorneys all to do some pro bono representation through the year and report back to the bar what they've done. I can't say often, I sometimes represent people for free. Sometimes people come in with a problem, a serious problem that's having real effect on their life, and they clearly don't have any money and they clearly need help. Attorneys have a lot of education and training and experience to help people through the system. And when people desperately need help, just because they don't have money should not be a bar to that. So because of that, I do pro bono work when I can. As a further, I guess, service, I love adoption. I do a lot of adoptions. I try to do simple adoptions for just slightly over cost because I think it's a great help building a family. And I think on a personal basis, it's something that I want to do and help with.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. And Judge Hill, the same question to you.
Thank you. Well, certainly as an attorney, before I became a judge, we always did a certain degree of help for those that weren't able to afford an attorney in the form of pro bono work. I think it's important, though, for a person in this community that's involved in the community, and particularly a judge as a constitutional officer, to be involved in the community itself. And that's more so than just taking on cases and doing them for a reduced fee, but as a judge to be involved in some civic activities. As I have laid out in my community and commitment to the community, that I am a resident here of Hendry County, that I'm a member of the LaBelle Rotary Club, the Sons of the American Legion Auxiliary for the VFW, and in addition to the member of the Hendry and Glades County bars. But I think what's important is that to be in this community, you need to be involved in the community. You need to be out there. You need to be within the people within this community. You need to go to the Main Street Deli or the Common Ground Cafe, or you need to go into the stores and shop there and be a part of the community. You need to go and it's to be at the spaghetti dinners that the Rotary provides, or to help provide for scholarship money for individuals that are here within the county that need help. I remember being a member of Rotary, that we had individuals after Irma that needed situations and help. And as members of the community, we were able to get together and help folks, even during the COVID crisis. So I think it's more so than just a professional pro bono type commitment to the community, but that you need to have the commitment to the community as a member of the community and to do things with your fellow Hendry County residents to let you know that you are a member of that community and that you do care about the individuals here in this county.
Thank you. So gentlemen, that's all the questions that I have for you. We do have quite a few folks watching on Facebook, but no questions for the judge. I think it might be a little bit intimidating to ask questions to the judge, but it certainly shouldn't be, guys on Facebook and ladies on Facebook. These are two very nice gentlemen here that would be more than happy to answer any questions you have, but you just have a very few more minutes to get them in. So we're going to move to you guys just having your time frame to speak directly to what could be your constituents. So Mr. Sullivan, let me unmute you and you can start us off.
Okay. Thank you. I think I've laid out what I feel are my credentials for the job and my significant experience, especially in the criminal law area. But I do have experience over the course of family law and small claims in a number of different areas. I think a good judge hears a case and judges the case. I think a great judge asks the question, what else? And by that, I mean this. Let's say, for example, that you have a battery between a husband and wife in your courtroom. The what else questions are, is there a divorce going on? Is there an injunction going on? Is the Department of Children and Families involved? Knowing the elements of a case is one thing. Knowing the background of a case and the people is another. I think I am that judge. I think I have the experience for that. I think I have a broad basis of experience, and I am asking for everyone's vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate having you on with us this morning. And now we will go to our incumbent to finish us off. Judge Hill.
Well, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to everyone.
Most welcome.
And to give everyone the idea of what does the county court judge do? And of course, I'm sitting over all of the county court criminal cases, all of the county court civil cases. I'm also the acting circuit court judge for all of the probate cases. I'm also the acting circuit court judge for the domestic violence and injunction cases, and the acting circuit court judge for all of the juvenile delinquency cases. And all of these types of cases do require a specific degree of expertise, but at the same time, of course, we're going to have to take into considerations other things, backgrounds of individuals, et cetera. But the primary function of the judge is to honor the judicial office as a public trust. The judge needs to be independent and preserve the integrity of the judiciary. The judge needs to be faithful to the law and have respect for precedent. The judge needs to be able to maintain order in the courtroom while at the same time being patient and dignified to all that come before the court, and to perform those judicial duties without bias or prejudice. And most importantly, the judge needs to provide that those that come before him the right to be heard with a fair and courteous hearing, and they're entitled to a prompt ruling. And I think that's really what it sums up to. And that's what people want in their judge, an independent judge, judge that follows the law, and to give them a fair and courteous hearing with a prompt ruling. It's been truly my honor to serve you as your Hendry County judge, and I thank you for this opportunity to reach out and talk to you personally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we don't have any actual questions. There's some comments. We did have quite a few viewers, and this will remain on the Chambers. This forum here will remain on the Chambers Facebook page for the duration of, the primary election. Early voting does start on Monday. So viewers, if you're watching today, right now, tonight, tomorrow, whatever, if you have questions regarding early voting, please visit the Hendry County Supervisor of Elections website. Their contact information is there, and they will be more than happy to help you if you can't find what you need on their website. So gentlemen, thank you for being here with us this morning, and we wish you both a lot of luck. And I'd like to always conclude by saying, our goal is not to influence a voter in either direction, but just to make sure that we have voters that are going in smart and know why they are voting the way that they are. So we really appreciate having you on, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.